Hey, welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Row. So tonight we're going to be doing a 5-way blind tasting to find out which of these sub $40 bottles of bourbon is better. So it's been a little while since we've done a 5-way blind tasting. We did the video with my wife, we did a store haul, and then we did the bourbons the 10 bottles that I just kind of regretted. And so tonight I wanted to get back to a 5-way blind tasting where I take 5 bottles and then we see how they fare, and hopefully you learn something. I know every time I do this, I learn something. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Check me out on patreon.com/whiskeyrow. Let's get to this. So first up tonight, we have Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve Straight Bourbon coming in at 100 proof. It's a Brown-Forman offering. I have had this before. It's pretty tasty. I'm actually kind of a big fan. It's a really pretty good value for $35. And it's hard to go wrong with this one. Next up tonight is Old Forester 1870 Original Batch. This is the cheapest or least expensive of the Whiskey Row series from Old Forester. Comes in at 90 proof, so it's not particularly proofy, but it's got some good flavor. It's Old Forester. It's definitely a step up from their standard Old Forester 86 and 100 proof. It's not my favorite from the Whiskey Row line, but did I say Whiskey Row? I did. Great buy for $39. At this price point at $39, it's probably not my favorite going into this, but we'll see how it does in a blind. Y'all know if I got the opportunity to include a Redwood Empire, I will. Well, tonight we've got the Pipe Dream from Redwood Empire, comes in at 90 proof. Like all of the Redwood Empire product that I've got, the Lost Monarch and the Emerald Giant, it's really, really good. It's actually the cheapest bottle on the table tonight at $32.99. I saw it online for. All right, next up tonight, we've got the Bell Mead Sour Mash Whiskey, straight bourbon. This is coming in at 90 proof. It's a Greenbrier Distillery product. It's a new bottle for me. I just opened it. I actually have the Bell Mead Reserve, which is a $50 bottle with the higher proof. I think it's 108 proof-ish. And I really like that one. That one's a strong contender. So I have high hopes for this. It'll be my first pour for this one, so we'll see how it fares. All right, and to round out our competition tonight, we got Maker's 46. So it's Maker's Mark, finished in French Oak Staves, coming in at 94 proof. Pretty classic, well thought of bourbon across the bourbon world. Anyway, I'm really excited for the competition tonight to have my first pour of this Bell Mead Sour Mash. It's just hard to get excited for these two. They're good. There's nothing wrong with them. We're going to see how they stand up against the other competitors tonight. So why a sub $40 competition tonight? Well, in the video I just published recently about the 10 bottles that I really regretted, I talked about how the value of those particular bottles, it just left kind of a sour taste in my mouth for a lot of them. A lot of them were just way too expensive. Some of them are not that expensive and they're just not very good, but a lot of them are just not worth the money. And so there's a little bit of a disappointment there. These are all very accessible, very relatively inexpensive for bourbon. I mean, they're not the cheap stuff, but they're not expensive at all. I'm doing this because I want to take some time with the sub 40, the sub 50, even the sub $30 bourbons, and find some really good buys out there, some really good flavors that are really enjoyable, because I know they exist because I can think of some of them by name, but I haven't really put a lot of those up against each other to really find out which of those flavor profiles I really enjoy. I have some preconceived notions about them, and I like to go grab a particular bottle, and I like to pour it, and I enjoy it. I used to love Maker's 46, and now I don't, just in my head, I don't love it anymore. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe it's still really good, especially compared to some of these. So that's why we do the blind tasting, so that we can destroy some of our preconceived notions about bourbons that we've had or we used to drink a lot, and get to the truth. Or at least the truth as my taste buds see it. As we do in my blind videos, I've poured 1.5 ounces of liquor into each of the Glencairns. Each of the Glencairns is labeled on the bottom to correspond with the bottle they are in front of. In just a minute, we're going to pull all the bottles out of here. Then we're going to mix up the glasses. And when we come back, we'll start the tasting. They're sufficiently mixed up. I don't have a clue which is which, so let's jump into this. On this, I'm getting a little bit of a maple syrup, some oak, hint of butterscotch. Kind of rides that line between maple syrup and butterscotch. A little bit of proof on it, but not very much. This has some hints of tobacco and black pepper. There's just a very faint sweetness. It's it's got a little bit of a wood taste to it, but it's not like an oak or a pine, maybe a cedar type of thing. It's a little bit of an off wood taste. On that one, I got just a hint of some maltiness too. I wouldn't consider it a sweet bourbon, but it's a very well balanced bourbon. On this, I'm getting a bit more of kind of a honey with some floral sweetness. It's very pleasant. There's a very mild pine, but yeah, there's a lot of floral and some honey sweet. Smells like a summer day. No, it smells pretty good though. On the palate, I'm getting a lot more kind of spice. There's a hint of kind of this off-putting wood, clove. The combination isn't really sitting well with me tonight. Very mild on the sweetness. It's got a good mouth coat. To me, it's less well-balanced than the first one, but it has a better mouth feel to me. On this one, I'm kind of getting a cereal maltiness on the nose with like a hint of like a vanilla syrup underneath that. It's very mild, even compared to these two. It's much more mild on the nose. To me, this one's much more mild than the other two. There's kind of a potpourri-ness with maybe some cherry, and it's got a really good mouthfeel. Kind of a little oaky, a little bit of a wood with a nice, just kind of generic, bland sweetness. The last couple sips, I started to pick up on this kind of cereal malty graininess. It's so mild. Normally, I don't like kind of the cereal grains taste, but that one's so faint that it kind of was pleasant to me. On to the last one. Ooh. So this one has kind of a maple syrup, kind of a caramel almost blend on the sweet side of things. And there's a hint of kind of an herbalness along with like a cherry. It smells really good. It's kind of different than the others. It kind of stands out as a very strong smell, but it's just very pleasant. Yeah, it's got a good cherryness to it. Then on the palate, it kind of falls apart. It's got a very strong cherry presence, quite a bit of barrel char taste, some wood. It's got a pretty decent sweetness, but it's kind of a nondescript sweet. The mouthfeel is okay, and then the finish is just kind of meh. Now what I'm going to do is predict what I think the outcome was going to be based on my prior experiences. I think number 1 is going to be Redwood Empire Pipe Dream, number 2, Cooper's, number 3, Belle Meade, number 4, Old Forester 1870, and number 5, Maker's 46. So I'm going to go through and figure out what I think what each of these should be ranked. And when we come back, we'll put them on pedestals. Welcome back. We got our rankings. Let's do this. Number 5. 4. 3. 2. And number 1. Right here. So the way this kind of worked for me when I was trying to figure out the placings, this one stood out. There's a woodiness to it that it didn't sit well with me today. I didn't really like it. So it was clearly 5th place, no question. Number 4 and number 3, I went back and forth on for almost 10 minutes. I could not figure out which I liked better, and they were really, really close. They're both pretty good, and on any night, I probably could swap these two back and forth. So whatever this one is and whatever this one is, honestly, I almost want to call it a tie. I actually thought about putting them on the same podium, but that seemed kind of dangerous to me, and then I thought the bottles might fall. We're going to call this one 4 and this one 3, but just know that these two are literally tied. They're not bad. This one I actually didn't care for at all. Everything from 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, those were all actually pretty good. I liked them. This one didn't work for me tonight. These two are about tied. This one I gave the edge to. Just a little bit smoother. I drank a little bit more of it. Maybe that's why. First was first, but not by a lot. And second was second, but not by a lot. These two were pretty close. It grew on me through the night. And I kept coming back to this one when I was doing the rankings as just a great kind of balance. I think the first sip I have it, I didn't necessarily love it, but it really kind of grew on me as I compared it to these others, and it was pretty good. This one's really good too, though. I was pretty happy with this one. It's kind of got this really kind of good blend, but to me, this was kind of the most balanced of the competitors tonight. I love it when it's balanced. I mean, I like sometimes when they're fiery, and I like it sometimes when they're sweet and whatever else, but when you just have a good bourbon that's well balanced, that's what number 1 does tonight. It's just really well balanced. All right, I took the bottles off the counter. We're going to now try to see if I can predict which is which. I have a clue on a couple, so let's go with those. So I think number 5 is the Maker's 46. This one I think is the Old Forester 1870. I think this is the Belle Meade. This one tastes proofier, so I'll go with the 100 proof over the 90. So I think this is the Cooper's, Redwood, Belle Meade, 1870, and the Maker's. So I'm not super confident in my prediction here. But how did I do? All right, let's reveal the winners. Number 5, Maker's. You can taste the wood in it, especially when you put it side by side with these others that don't have that finish. So maybe that wasn't the greatest choice, but again, we're looking at sub $40 bottles, and Makers 46 is a good option. If you like regular Makers, if you want a little bit of a twist on regular Makers, then this is a good option for you. All right, number 4, Redwood Empire Pipe Dream. Thought that was going to do better tonight. I'm a little surprised by that outcome, but that's why we do blind. Number 3, Old Forester 1870. It did better than I thought it would. It beat the Redwood Empire. I did not expect that, so that's an interesting outcome. That's pretty cool. Number 2, Belle Meade. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that one. First time I opened the bottle was tonight, and I can't complain. So that means number 1, Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve. Solid showing. It's a dang good bottle for $40. If you haven't tried Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve, 100 proof, it's got some really good flavor. If you haven't tried the Cooper's Craft Barrel Reserve, definitely check it out. Belle Meade did better than I thought it would. I'm a little surprised by that. Redwood Empire Pipe Dream didn't fare as well as I thought it would. Normally, I really like the Redwood Empire product. The Lost Monarch is one of my favorites, as well as the Emerald Giant. This one of the 3 is my least favorite. But hey, Old Forester 1870 from the Whiskey Row line. It's the 3rd best of the Whiskey Row. I think the 1910 and 1920 are the 2 best. Then I think this is 3rd place, and then I think the 1897 is my least favorite of the Old Forester Whiskey Row line. I had a lot of fun tonight. I loved doing these blind tastings and discovering some new favorites, some certain bottles that are perhaps maybe a little overrated in my mind, some old classics that are maybe falling behind the crowd a little bit, and some old classics that still hold up pretty well against the competition. So if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Check me out at patreon.com/whiskeyrow. I've got some cool stuff out there. And until next time, find a bottle you love.